Okay, I've seen this on the internet a lot the last couple of years, and that is the vision of a 40-team NHL or the plans to have a 40-team NHL. Now, initially, this idea came up with having a division or a conference in Europe, 10 teams in Europe. That wouldn't work. The NBA and NFL have also looked at the idea of having European-based franchises and have basically said no. Since, if it was done before 2008, possibly. Post 2008, nope. Because of the issues with exchange rates and currency fluctuations becoming more volatile, and the distance of travel and logistics, it's a big no-no. That is another issue with a 40-team league. It is plausible to play inter-conference games and have a 2-game shorter season. The off-season is still the same. The post-season is still the same, but you have 2 less regular season games. And that means actually having 8 divisions of 5. And breaking the divisions down into more regional areas. So a Canadian division, for example, or 2 Canadian divisions. It also requires actually having more Canadian teams for it to work. It would also require a lot of established franchises being relocated. Now, the issue is the league has been very, very reluctant to relocate teams. Atlanta is the latest example, but there was a long time between Atlanta being relocated and any other team having to move. Then you've got to realise that the Canadian dollar is not doing so well right now. So the Canadian franchise thing, Quebec have actually, the ownership was there, the arena's there, but the ownership decided to pull back and put it on the cold burner. And hold fire on that idea. They were really interested about 4 or 5 years ago. Then it got closer and closer to which team was going to be chosen as the 31st expansion, which has obviously been Vegas, and Quebec pulled out. There was a sudden drop on the Canadian dollar, and they did their mathematics, and it would be more expensive to start an expansion team with expansion fees as well in Canada than in America. But the only way a 40-team NHL works is if you have more Canadian teams. There's just not enough areas in the US that could support hockey because of the sports that they have, or the economic, locations, how good the economy is locally as well. But you would have to relocate franchises, which the league is not willing to do. You would have to, and it would mean that changing the conference layout as well. You'd have to mean Detroit would have to go back to the West, and Detroit specifically, along with Columbus, said no, we want to have less travel. We want to be in the East. So travel will be an issue as well. It is doable. There's another way of doing it. You have no interconference games until playoffs, and I don't think the fans would enjoy that. The fans would hate that, and a lot of the owners would hate that as well, because you want to have teams like the LA Kings come to town, or the Chicago Blackhawks. They put bums on seats. If you're in the East and or in the West, you want to have the Rangers come to town. You want to have the Maple Leafs in town, the Canadians. If you are a Western franchise team, you want to have the Toronto Maple Leafs in town. They're the biggest supported franchise in the NHL. That will put bums on seats. If you are a Tampa Bay fan, you want to see Dallas Stars play in your arena, or LA, or San Jose, because San Jose is the best marketed and best branded team in the league. San Jose has got the best, according to some polls. You want to have these, you want to have the Battle of Alberta, and then play both those Canadian teams, the Flames and the Oilers, because of the histories of those franchises. The fans wouldn't have it, and some of the owners realise that puts bums on seats. We sell more tickets if we have inter-conference games. You would obviously be playing 2 less games, but some of the travel distances would be longer. And you also need, as I said, Canadian teams to join, and with the Canadian dollar as it is just not going to happen. I think 32 is a perfect number. It means everything is nice and balanced. Now, the league could choose to make it into 8 divisions again. They could choose to do that. They could choose to, make it divisions of 4, change the playoff format into the top 2 from each division go through. That's what they could do. They could do that. The league has done this very unpopular realignment with 4 divisions of 8, which will be when Seattle joins. It hasn't been the most popular with some fans and some owners, but that was an agreement at the last lockout. The next collective bargaining agreement is in between 3 to 4 years' time. You can opt out in 2020, but it doesn't run out until 2021. So we shall see what happens in 3-4 years' time. We'll have to see how Seattle's first season does, and whether the league would consider relocating teams that are struggling, or whether they will again stabilise the two new franchises in Vegas and Seattle, because Vegas will be established by this point, but to stabilise them long term, give them long term success, and get Seattle settled in and moving forward. Because this collective bargaining agreement is going to be crucial if the league wants to go to 40 teams. Very, very crucial. But I can't see it at the moment, or at least not in the next 10, 20 years, because of the Canadian dollar really struggling against the US dollar, and because all the salaries and all the running costs are worked out in US dollars, running a Canadian franchise is actually more expensive than an American one. So when fans are going, why hasn't Arizona, Carolina and Florida been moved, i.e. back to Canada or to another location, it's because it's easier to work out the mathematics and costs, and the league can support them more. If these were teams in Canada, the exchange rate would actually make it more expensive for the league to prop them up, and they would basically go, look, this is actually costing us money now, you're going to have to move. Hence the Jets Mark 1 and the Nordiques in the 90s, hence the lasting resentment. But yeah, I'm going to leave that there. That's my thoughts on it. I don't personally think they will go to 40 teams, but I want to hear from you guys. Put your comments below, and it'll be a very interesting debate whether we stick at 32 when Seattle joins, or we go to 40 in the next 10, 20, 30 years. But notice, after every major expansion, so 67 to 80 and 91, 92 to 2000, a lot of teams had financial problems. A lot of teams had money issues. Now Vegas has just joined and Seattle will join. That should be expansion done. Right now, the teams that had money issues, most of them are more okay now. But in 2000, a lot of teams were really up against the wall. So we'll have to see what happens. But place your comments below. Please like, subscribe, and I'll have some more videos for you soon.